No one could have imagined that the map of the entire 20th century would be forcibly rewritten by a single bullet in a stack of paper, within a matter of millimeters. October 14, 1912, a .38 caliber Colt bullet pierced the chest of former President Theodore Roosevelt at a range of 2 meters, lodging just millimeters from his heart. In that era, this was absolutely a fatal wound, a confirmed death sentence. Any rational person facing this would have collapsed, but Roosevelt chose to stand. He saved the assassin from being beaten to death by the crowd, pushed away the doctors trying to carry him off, and insisted on ordering his driver to proceed to the auditorium to give his speech. This was undoubtedly a miracle of God. But what actually caused the Reaper to miss that night was a professional habit of Roosevelt's that had been mocked by political enemies for years, a habit one might even call terrible. To understand the lethality of the shot, we must first look at the assassin. The killer, John Schrank, was motivated by a ghost. According to interrogation records, Schrank claimed he dreamed of the late President McKinley. In the dream, McKinley pointed to Roosevelt and said, "This is my murderer, avenge my death." Driven by this mad sense of destiny, Schrank stalked Roosevelt for thousands of miles, finally finding his chance in Milwaukee. At 8 p.m. that night, he stood just 5 feet from Roosevelt. At this distance, a bullet from a Colt special revolver is strong enough to penetrate 2 pine boards. When the gun fired, the bullet sped towards Roosevelt's heart at 200 meters per second. According to ballistics, Roosevelt should have been a dead man. But before touching his skin, the bullet encountered an unexpected physical maze. The first line of defense was the inner pocket of his overcoat. Inside was a steel spectacle case. The bullet punched through it, but this was merely a speed bump. The real shield was Roosevelt's bad habit. He was a hopeless chatterbox. That night's speech, titled "The Cause of Progress Greater Than the Individual," was ridiculously long, a full 50 pages. The crucial detail is this. To read the manuscript with his failing eyesight, Roosevelt had specifically chosen to print it in an extra-large font. This made the document incredibly thick, forcing him to fold it in half to fit it into his coat pocket. This meant the bullet had to penetrate 100 layers of tightly compressed paper. It was these 100 layers of paper fiber that absorbed the vast majority of the bullet's kinetic energy. By the time the bullet finally bored into his rib, it was a spent force. The next few minutes displayed a scene even more shocking than his survival. After being shot, Roosevelt didn't panic. Instead, he did something counterintuitive. As an experienced old hunter, he immediately coughed hard, a battlefield triad judgment. No blood in the spit meant the lung wasn't punctured. Based on this rough but effective diagnosis, he roared at the crowd, screaming to lynch Schrank. "Don't hurt him. Bring the poor creature here." He personally inspected the assassin, confirmed safety, then turned to his driver and gave that famous order, "To the auditorium." Backstage, doctors found his shirt soaked in blood, the dark bullet hole alarming to behold. But Roosevelt refused treatment. He walked onto the stage, unbuttoned his vest, and revealed the bloody manuscript and wound to the entire audience. He delivered that darkly humorous opening line to the terrified crowd. "Friends, I shall ask you to be as quiet as possible. I don't know whether you fully understand that I have just been shot, so I cannot make a very long speech." Then, he spoke for a full 90 minutes. Every breath came with the agonizing pain of a fractured rib, but he didn't allow himself to collapse until he had finished reading every word of that life-saving paper. X-rays showed the bullet remained in his body for the rest of his life. It was a moment full of irony. A tough guy president who prided himself on action was ultimately saved by his long-winded words. But the deeper irony lies here. That stack of paper saved Roosevelt's life, but it cost the Republican Party its life. As a former president who had already served 2 terms, Roosevelt's chances of winning a third non-consecutive term were already approaching 0. The gunshot didn't miraculously help him win, but the heroism he displayed while speaking wounded permanently locked down 27% of the vote. This powerful disruption left the old guard Republicans helpless, effectively hand-delivering the White House to the Democrat Woodrow Wilson. And it was this Wilson, who won by a fluke, who signed the Federal Reserve Act the following year, establishing the Fed, and later adopted a famous strategy of delay in World War I, waiting until 1917 to end a fight. Had this not happened, an earlier American intervention by 2 years could have prevented the collapse of Tsarist Russia, thereby removing the soil for the October Revolution. The Soviet Union might never have been born. That thick stack of speech papers didn't just block a bullet aimed at a president. By preserving the life of a spoiler, it accidentally birthed U.S. dollar hegemony, indirectly toppled the Russian Tsar, and single-handedly drew the map of war and peace for the entire 20th century. If that bullet had traveled just a few millimeters further, or if that stack of paper had been just a little thinner, American history, and indeed the geopolitical landscape of the 20th century, might have completely shifted on that night in 1912. Sometimes the difference between life and death is simply the stubborn desire to say a few more words.